do a countdown the first week?
I feel like we did.
But I think it was a countdown for us. I'm not confident that anybody else saw it because
Maybe-
when I watched the playback,
Right.
there was no countdown.
Maybe we counted 3, 2, 1, and live.
Go. Live with 0
If only-
viewers.
If only we knew what we had done before.
Yes, that's true. You'd think after 6, what is this, the 5th or the 6th episode?
What is it? Is it?
I
It's the 6th one.
I
This
think-
is episode 6.
Yes, and I think that we should know what we're doing by now, but we don't.
It's really
Solid.
optimistic of you.
Solid every week, just trying to figure it out.
Very optimistic.
Exactly. So, what superpower would you have
What superpower?
if you could have one? Andrew.
Are we limiting it to one is my question?
It could be, I would say they have to be complementary. You can't have them all.
Well,
Like-
but
But if you have them all, then aren't they all complimentary?
Well, but like I think you could, I mean, let's not limit it to just maybe one, but like, let's
feel like-
say,
the reason in which I want to have multiple are complementary to the reason why I want multiple.
okay, well, I'll listen to that story.
Okay. So I would want
Sounds good.
invisibility and flight. Those are the two that I would want.
And
You
why,
just want to mess with birds.
why those two?
Well, think about all the crap that you can get away with if you're invisible and then just fly away.
But if you're invisible, you wouldn't need to fly away.
You could actually
Oh,
saunter away.
No, that's not true. How many movies have you seen where the person who's invisible, like, let's talk Harry Potter right now, he almost gets caught all the time.
Well, he's just got a cloak, though.
I know, but it's
Okay,
an
but he was a
invisibility cloak.
preteen.
That's true.
If he could fly, then he would have been out of there. There would be
True enough.
It's true.
no tense situations.
So you would choose invisibility and flight.
Yes, and if I had to pick one or the other, I'd probably do invisibility.
Interesting.
I feel like maybe like the power that like Doctor Strange has would be pretty fun for a while.
Doctor Strange.
What is that power?
Well, he can, well, basically time travel, right? Like
No,
it's not really time traveling.
that was because of the stone that he had.
Well, that isn't that what he can do?
But that's not his power. That's not what he can do.
Well, is it really in him or is it his outfit?
No, he draws energy from other dimensions and he makes them materialize here.
Yeah,
Isn't
that sounds
his
like a good
power-
idea.
Isn't his power learnable? Like,
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
so-
then he has the magic cloak that protects
Oh,
him.
that's right.
Which
the
sounds-
cloak with an
There's
attitude.
an outfit and it has an
See,
attitude.
but that's not a power. That's an accessory.
That's a friend.
That's a-
So if I could be invisible and have that cloak thing and fly.
But then you wouldn't be invisible.
No, I would be invisible because I wouldn't.
But you'd be wearing the cloak. So we'd see
Well, the
you.
cloak wouldn't be invisible, but
that
Right.
would-
So we'd see you.
no, you'd see the cloak.
If it's on you, we'll see where you are. Like flying away won't help you.
It's like in the cartoon when the little when something's invisible but has like dirty feet and you see the footprints.
Right.
Yeah, I think that, or being able to do things with your mind, like if you could move something or like
Oh, like telekinesis.
right. That sounds like a pretty fun idea. But all of them would be annoying after a time.
You're speaking from motherhood, I think, was that statement. You're thinking if your children had that power, it would get
Yeah,
annoying.
just imagine like taking care of children with those special abilities. It'd be like, whoa, like
Well, it's no wonder
everybody
they have,
just go to your room.
it's no wonder they have the X-Men school where kids just go away. Go,
Yeah, just go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
be
put you in
someone
the
else's
school.
problem. Come back to
Exactly.
me when you learn how to control this.
Mhm.
Right. I kind of, I don't know. There's so many cool ones out there. Like when you consider like the comic books or even the superhero movies and cartoons. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I kind of like Storm's powers. Like the Marvel character Storm, she can control all the weather and everything, and she can fly. And So that seems like a pretty neat one because, it would be nice and warm all the time.
Nobody picked the superhero that I created when I was in high school. Nobody picked his power that I gave him.
Well, we may not be aware of who that is.
Me and a buddy, we created Delayed Reaction Man.
Wow.
And his power was that he had a delayed reaction to all of the problems that were going on.
I guess in some cases that would be a superpower because if it's delayed enough, then sometimes the problem will have passed.
Yeah.
Super chill in the moment.
That's hippie man. Like, this will work out. Like, it'll be fine.
Yes.
I think that would be very, very entertaining. So superpowers, and that's a typical question, right? Like people ask that question quite a bit, right? Like, what superpower would you have if you? So, people watching, what superpower would you have if you could have a superpower?
Mm-hmm.
That would be. I'm actually interested to see what people say about that.
Yeah, I think that it depends on the situation. Like, I mean, sometimes it'd be nice to just pick and choose.
So, what if you could have a superpower that alters depending on the situation you're in?
Well, isn't there one person who like can get the power but they have to touch another person with that power, right?
Oh, so that's from what was that TV show called? Heroes.
Okay, yeah. They could just
with Hiro Nakamura.
Yes. He just likes to say that.
I do. I like to say it's like I like to say Katemuk.
Yeah, it's too much.
It sounds like it's a place in Mexico. I know it's probably. It sounds like it would be an ethnic word.
Super digestion.
Super digestion. Ken would like super digestion. So does that mean like what we'd feed you?
Nope,
like
we're not going to examine that one.
And then you can just digest anything.
I was going to say that actually would be pretty stellar because you could eat whatever and just like you could eat double cheeseburgers if you wanted all day long.
My mom's cooking.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, Mom. Sorry. Love you.
But you can eat whatever and you just process that puppy up.
All kinds of manipulating gravity fields from PJ.
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Then I mean, you could be, the weight of things would be impacted.
It wouldn't. You can mess with a person's like genes and everything, right? Like. Okay, and so here's a shout out for you, Jan.
Thank you.
Wow.
That is my superpower. A bun is my superpower.
Do you have like a secret fan club going on? Like, is this your goal? Is to try and get letters written in? Like,
yeah, I think so. I feel like, and who knows? Like my bun has got stuff in it. Maybe it's powerful.
It's a powerful bun.
It's an antenna.
It's 5G.
It's 5G. Oh my word, Rob. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm far too entertained by that.
Yes.
I do feel
guys, thanks for what's that?
Oh, I was going to say, I do feel like super digestion, by the way, just to go back to that for a second, is one that I haven't heard.
True.
Oh, yeah, that's a new concept to me.
Like most of this question, like I feel like this question is kind of like asked a lot. And so to hear somebody come up with a different...
Creative, I think, because most of the time you kind of think typical characters we've heard of before. Now Ken is thinking outside the box.
I'm just wondering how you use it. So like he says, right, like, eat his way out of any problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if your problem is like you're being attacked by multiple people?
Maybe you turn around.
Give me a second. Let me find something in the dumpster. I'll show you my super digestion.
I think the problem comes when you talk about marketing that character. Because
although the cat,
like what would the costume?
The cat,
what does the GI Joe look like?
Ate the Tesseract and then puked it back up. So I guess it didn't digest it though. But that cat.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the proudest moments I have had as a man in a long time.
Yeah,
my wife knows what a Tesseract is.
It's a sad, sad day, people. Sad day.
When Janet and I first started, she had no idea about any superheroes, and now she has superhero theories about what's going on what's the show we're called again? WandaVision.
WandaVision, sure.
Janet has WandaVision theories, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
So, hey, thanks for joining us here again tonight. We've got some exciting news for everybody that I am very, very pumped about. You were pointing at something for me.
No, you're talking super loud.
Oh, I'm talking super loud, and we're clipping in the microphone, so I'm going to quiet
When he's super excited.
I am. When I'm excited, I get loud. Maybe that's a superpower.
Mhm.
Loud. It was my favorite. When I got home from school, there was one year. Sorry, not when I got home from school. When I was younger in school, our teacher used to give us a Mister book that she felt reflected who we were.
Oh, tell me you got Mr. Loud.
I did. I totally got
Mr.
Mr.
Noisy?
Loud. She gave me Mr. Noisy.
We
Yeah.
had to get that book for Theron.
Yeah.
What is a Mr. book? I don't know what that is.
Oh,
like-
Andrew, you've never heard of the Mr. books?
It's like
or
a-
the Little Miss?
The Little Miss. It's like a whole series of stories about these people who have characteristics, like Mr. Slow, Mr. Angry.
Mr. Loud.
Like they have
Mr.
characteristics.
Tickle. Mr. Topsy Turvy.
They have all these problems and they get
Mr.
solved.
Tickle?
Yeah.
What characteristic is
Tickle.
Tickle?
Mr. Tickle.
An American way.
Oh, Tickle.
Yes, Tickle.
Tickle.
Yes. And there's a guy who laughs, and there's a guy who
Yeah,
like they have all these
Mr. Happy.
Mr. Happy,
Sad,
Mr. Sad.
Mr. Messy.
hmm
And so every one of us as a kid, we got this book, like a book that came home that we were supposed to, read to our parents. And apparently this was a book that was all something that we would relate to.
Sadly, it doesn't sound very encouraging.
No,
I feel like
Miss Dreger.
Mhm.
What was
Wow.
her name? Miss Dreger. Nice lady.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try this again.
exciting news.
Thank you for tuning in again tonight. We're pretty excited for tonight, specifically for two reasons. We're talking about coming back to church, but we're also talking about God moments that I think were awesome
Yeah.
for people in life.
For sure.
Talking about church coming back. And man, I miss being together. I trust and I hope that you guys miss being together as well.
And what do you miss? You can tell.
Yeah, like I said, tell us what you miss about coming back to church or being in church. And really would be interested to know that because we'll probably miss a lot of the same things.
Mhm.
March 14th.
That's a big day.
That's a big, big day.
Mhm.
That's going to be a long day, actually, but it's going to be a great day. March 14th, we are coming back to services, which I'm really excited about. We're allowed up to 100 people.
Mhm.
And so we're going to be having our service in the gym where we're going to be able to have coffee. We're going to be able to hang out together a bit.
And we'll do the same thing we did before with registrations because we need to keep that way. You know, if there's a seat in
Yeah,
a
if
service
there's
that's available. Oh yes, Jackie's missing people.
And potlucks. Okay, we're not going to be allowed to do the potlucks as of yet,
Yeah.
because you're not allowed to serve food just yet, but it's going to be a great time. So yeah, you're right, Jen. We got to have the registrations happening. So we'll have more information coming out for you guys regarding that.
Mhm.
All the registrations, you can do it through the
Church
Church
Center.
Center app, right, Andrew? Church Center app?
Yep. Yeah, that's actually the best place to do it. You can, I don't think we have it set up on our website yet, but I think Church Center app is the place to go for
Yeah,
it.
that'll be the go-to to register. And so then you'll be able to register yourselves. Make sure you have a seat to be able to get in.
Mhm.
So we got some people telling us what they miss about church. So people, right? And people are enjoying that, but also miss worshiping in a large group.
Mm.
Yeah. You know what? I 100% agree with that. There is something about that collective being together and worshiping the Lord together, right?
Mhm.
I mean, certainly you can do that on your own, but it's just something different when you get to do it with each other, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Just in case anybody's wondering any details that you're wondering about regarding what we're asking of people in terms of regulations, that kind of stuff, that's all going to be on the website. So we're going to encourage you guys to go over to the website and check out the update that's there. And it gives you all the details that you need to know for coming back to services. But do the masks need to be on the entire time? The answer is no, not the entire time.
Nope.
According to the public health, go ahead.
We can wear them upon entry. So as we come in, and then once you are seated in your spot, so you'll be able to sit with your family group. We cannot sit with other family groups, but we can sit in our family groups. And once you're seated in your spot, you'll be able to take your mask off during that. But if you get up and move around, you'll have to put the mask back on.
But the cool thing is that you can get yourself all done up for Sunday. You come in, you sit down, and think of your mask as an unveiling.
Wow.
It's like,
Yes.
and here's the show. Okay, it's sad.
Or you left your show the inside of the mask.
Yes, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's one that you can see.
Yeah.
Well, and then only you can see. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Now, the cool thing that comes along with this, of course, is like we're having our regular 11 o'clock service,
Mhm.
but we're doing something a little bit more this time around. We're actually adding a 6 p.m. service. We recognize that with only being able to have 100 people in the service, we need to offer more opportunities. And so, in cooperation with the Bergtaller Church, because we do share their
Space.
building,
Mhm.
we're going to be doing an 11 o'clock slot, and we will do a 6 p.m. slot. And if there is significant need for more, well, we'll look at that as we walk forward together. But for now, we have 2 services we're going to be offering, one at 11, one at 6 p.m. It's going to be pretty fun.
Mhm.
What do we got here? PJ talking about stuff. What's he saying to us here? Feeling connected to the community. Oh, yeah. I like that. Talking about what he misses about being together in
Sure.
church. The whole idea of gently nudging each other. Let's be serious. We don't gently nudge a pathway. That's not how this works. PJ, you know this.
Yeah.
We're just like,
And I think-
hey, you look like you should do this. Why don't you do it?
Wasn't he in the singles conversation talking about not liking being gently nudged toward opportunities? I think we need to talk to him about that again.
Yeah.
And I
That'd be
think
fun.
the opportunity will be interesting to see how people are feeling about doing an evening opportunity. I know obviously we will not be able to be offering kids church at this time. The rule at this time is 100 people in the entire building. So we are unable to use, like, we would be then taking from the gym space to use different rooms, and each of those rooms still would be restricted to 25%. So if a room can only have 10 people in it, it doesn't really account for very many children. So
Yeah, it's like 2 kids in a classroom, right?
it just doesn't really work. So we will be looking forward to starting that KidMin up again when we can. But for right now, we will be I'll be making some of those clipboards again. So for those who are bringing their kids, feel free to bring them. They can sit with you in your family group, and we will definitely have some of those activity clipboards ready for you.
And we get together and just be loud for the Lord again. I mean, that's just, there's something, again, I can't get past the comment of there's just something amazing that happens when our voices are joined together in worship of the Lord. It's just, so looking forward to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's a big deal. What do you guys think of that? You like the idea that we're doing 2 services, one at 11, one at 6?
Yeah. And maybe, Rob, we want to talk to the people here about why do we pick 6 o'clock? Why 6?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. So in looking at it, one of the things that we've been toying around with for quite some time already has been whether or not we should provide an evening service of some kind. And so in talking with a wide array of people in our congregation. Or variety of people. It's a wide array. It sounds so much nicer. Anyway, a whole bunch of people in our congregation. We learned that Sunday evenings are probably best case scenarios for an evening service, primarily because people are typically home by Sunday evening anyway, because they got work the next day, people got school the next day. So if they're going away for a weekend, they're typically back. And then we wanted to make sure that we weren't going too late into the evening in the event that people who do have children want to participate in that service. They could certainly come and enjoy the service together with other believers and then put their kids to bed after.
Right.
So that's kind of the idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you like the idea of an evening service?
Nobody has a question about
Nobody
that,
has a
apparently.
question about that.
They just love it.
They love it.
I think really the excitement lies in
Silence is love.
That's what I think. They love it. No, I can just decide what they're saying if they're not saying.
There you go. If you're not saying anything, Janet will fill in the blank for you
That's
in
right.
terms of what you're yes.
Yeah, you love it. We're just excited, I think, to be able to be in that building, together in person and in the building, worshiping together. I think is just, we've all been waiting for it.
Yeah. Now, I should tell you, for any of you who are not comfortable coming back together and doing that our services will still be online in the way that you currently have been experiencing them. And so, not to take away from anything, but just to let you know that will still be available to you. Question is, will the same sermon be given in both services? The answer is yes. Yes. Because God's word is so good, you got to do it twice.
Yeah. And it's the same message that's recorded and will be for everyone who is unable to be
That's right.
Lot.
So that the entire congregation is on the same page in terms of what we're all experiencing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very pumped about that, actually.
Yeah.
It's good. And so I think what would be good, and certainly feel free. Oh, we got a whole bunch of questions that came in at once. Okay. The matter slope till 5, so 6 we feel like Sunday morning. That's awesome. I like that. Okay, so somebody is asking. Here's a good question. Somebody is asking, PJ's, whether or not there will be meals or that kind of thing. And what I can tell you right now is that the public health order doesn't actually allow us to do potlucks. We can serve food if we cater it. That's the specifics that comes to. But given that we want to be respectful of the facility that we're in, we're going to just hold off on meals together for now, and we're going to enjoy the service together. I should tell you, though, we are working out having some really, really, really good coffee being served.
There's no such
so that's
thing.
a good bit of a shout out to OBR Coffee. So, which is good. So I tell you what, you can feel free to continue asking your questions. We're just going to talk a little bit more then about God moments, for lack of better ways of saying them. Some people call them divine encounters, divine appointments, that sort of idea. Things where God shows up in a way that you weren't anticipating, that either gives opportunity for ministry, gives opportunity for prayers to be answered, things that he seems to be orchestrating. And we just thought we would have conversation about that, because we truly believe that God is actively at work in our world today, which means that we should anticipate him moving in miraculous ways, and sometimes even in unique and strange ways. So do you guys have something that you can point to where you say, man, that must have been a God moment?
Well, I know I do. When I was in high school, we went on a short-term mission trip to Africa. And when we were there, we were there to build a roof on a church, just like a tin roof. And we stood around and we were like, great, we're here and this is fantastic and we're ready to go. And none of the material that we needed was there. So we're actually missing, we needed, I think it was like 9 I-beams, steel I-beams. And we just didn't have them. And nobody thought to order them or anything. And it was kind of crazy. And they were telling us, here in that particular place in Africa, it wasn't like you go down to Home Depot and buy 9 steel I-beams. It was like, yep, we're out of luck. And so we kind of were looking at each other and I guess we'll spend the next 3.5 weeks just, doing street ministry and stuff like that. And they'll go without their roof for another X amount of years, because they had gone without a roof for 13 years. So I guess what's another year? And we were praying one of the days, and one of the kids came up into the group and was just like, hey, I found something out back. And so we went out back, and 9 I-beams were sitting in the grass, and all of the grass had actually grown around them and stuff, and there was dirt all in them and stuff, and it was like, okay, that'll work.
Hey, that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Apparently, I think they traced it back to somebody in 1988 or something like that had bought them with intentions of using them to help build the church or whatever, and then they just completely spaced them. But it still was just like, wow, this is really cool. God knew what we needed in the moment that we needed it and provided that thing.
So what impact did that have on your group that was down there?
Well, it gave us something to do.
Sure. Okay. It gave you something to do, but just even just think about it, because you're there, you're on a mission trip, you're certainly serving the Lord in the moment, and you have this need, and all of a sudden the answer is present.
Yeah.
It didn't just arrive. It was they're ahead of you, as if to acknowledge the fact that the need was already known prior to the time of the immediate need, right?
It was all of us kind of stood around for, I want to say, a good half hour, and we just couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, really? And just, the wildness of it was not overshadowed by the fact that, like what you said, like knowing that God provides and provides for us before we even ask the question.
Yeah.
And that was the encouraging thing, at least for me. What I took away from that was just the idea that, man, anything we need is not too small for God, and it's no detail has been left, undone for him. He knows
Right.
exactly what we need when we need it, and he'll take care of it. So
That's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's literally, I imagine, like I'm trying to put myself into the shoes of people who would be on that mission trip and just imagine that, yeah, like you'd have no choice. You'd have to acknowledge that as a God moment and just praise him for it.
Absolutely.
Yep. It was really neat for a 17-year-old, to see that. Now I turned
That's
into
awesome.
a butt later, but whatever.
I think that sometimes when I think for me, the times where it came to my mind, that the first thing that comes to mind is that I think it's when we think there's no other way. And when I go, well, it's not possible. That's the time where I think, because of our experience with starting Pathway, and we didn't have like literally anything.
No, we had nothing.
And I mean, we had our 12 people that we had together, and we basically used our own money to buy the cups and the coffee, whatever, and we didn't know how we were going to get weekly things done. And so when we realized that we would need like a drum kit, because we had somebody who had their own guitar and who could come, we didn't have all the things that we needed. We didn't have a drum kit. And our group of people were in our garage still regularly praying over the beginning of the church and over how we were going to do things. And we just was like, well, we don't know how that's going to get done. Like we just like literally looked at the budget, went like the giving wasn't there yet. We cannot buy a drum kit. Like it's just too expensive. And it was like literally,
well, so we prayed
and said, like, God, like from your storehouse,
yep,
you do what you need to do. If we need this, like,
yeah, if you feel we need this, then please provide a way.
And I think we had a meeting like midweek, I'm going to say, like it was, early in the week. And I feel like by the end of that week, it was like a day later it happened, right? It was like within a day, somebody can't come forward and said, like, they felt it on their heart. God was telling them they should donate a drum kit.
Yeah.
And we're like, so weird, because nobody had approached them. No one had talked to them out of their, it's God doing his work, which is laying it on somebody's heart and saying, like, and then them following through on that prompt and saying, you know what, I feel we need to do. And to me, that was one of those moments, like signpost moments, where you put up a bunch of rocks and you remember this is when God was faithful. This is where he met us. And I know it's a small thing, or it seems like a small thing when you think of maybe in the scan of life, a drum kit. But at that time when we had nothing, and we really just,
it was an answer to prayer.
It was an answer to prayer. And I think it was one of those things where we went, whoa, like.
I remember reading a story by Chuck Smith, and he was talking about when he first was in ministry, he was, making nothing as far as a paycheck, really. He was working as a bagger at the grocery store. And they had a bill, I think it was like for $460 or something like that. And they just didn't have it. It was like, we don't have it. And so he and his wife got together and they prayed, and they prayed that God would provide and everything. And sure enough, like the next day, somebody left a check on their car for $460 and just kind of felt like, hey, God put it on my heart to give you this amount of money. And so I did it. And he said an interesting thing. At least I thought it was interesting. Maybe you guys won't think it's interesting, but he said, like, I took the check in and showed my wife, and we were standing around our kitchen table and we were almost dancing, just super excited that God provided and all these things. And he says, I remember praying in that moment, God, you're so good. And he's like, I just remember God touching my heart and saying, like, yeah, but what if I hadn't provided that money? Would I still be good?
Yeah, am I still good?
Well, is it because of this blessing that I'm good, or is it because I am good, I bless you, that kind of thing? And so I think there's plenty of moments in my life that I can look back on and think to myself, I was in that moment, it was like, shoot, maybe I had the wrong attitude.
And it's cool because we see God show up in so many different ways. I love some of the things I'm reading here from people. Kim says, like a huge moment for them and their family, right? With Pacey dealing with sepsis,
which is super scary.
Oh, I can't even imagine, right?
Yeah.
And then Jesus just kind of showing up and says, "No, I got this, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to take care of Pacey, and things are going to be awesome." And so that's absolutely, it can only imagine for parents just what a praise the Lord moment that is, right? Melissa's talking about, the idea of going on a mission trip to Vancouver of all places. And this is a love story, right? She falls in love with Canada. That's just kind of neat because you don't hear a lot of people say that. And then ends up marrying this good old Canuck 4 years later, right?
I feel like Manitoba is probably not as beautiful as Vancouver, but we have our moments where we have
moments, right?
Moments of beauty.
So no, I like that. I like that a lot. So there's God moments all over the place, and he shows up in ways that you just don't expect, right? Like just surprising things. Jackie says, what does she say here? Okay, she found out she was pregnant, lost a job, sold the house, moved to another state, and then did it again 2 years later. It's all in Canada. There you go. So there's a pattern there, Mr. Sherman.
Yeah, it's whenever we get pregnant, we start, looking at jobs and.
Okay, so we should not be encouraging your family to grow. Is that what we're saying?
I guess if you want us to leave, we've had one. We've gone through the whole cycle here. We've had
that's
one.
right. And you didn't move.
And you haven't moved.
we didn't move.
Maybe it's that's over, Jackie. No more of that.
No more of that. We don't like that pattern.
We broke the pattern.
That pattern. It's a good break. But it's cool still. Either way, how God shows up. I know. Yeah. Okay, so this might sound silly. When you're dealing with a lot of things with people in life and that sort of thing, sometimes you just need a mental break, right? So we all have our smartphones, and I don't know if you guys play games on your smartphone or not, but I started playing a game on my smartphone, and it's a silly game. It's like a cross between like Bejeweled and like a build your community survival type game. And so part of what you need to do in this game in order to advance in it is you have to join what they call an alliance. So I'm like, whatever. I just want to advance in this game. I don't want to deal with any of the stress of anything else. So I joined an alliance. And in joining the alliance, it was the most bizarre thing. I wasn't in the alliance for more than 2 days. And there's a chat room. It's required that you chat a little bit with people. Like, this is already a commitment for me because I don't like chatting online very much.
I would not have advanced in this game.
Yeah, I would have been like,
yeah, exactly.
So that way. So anyway, so I'm on this game and I'm chatting in the alliance, and some guys just start having some relationship problems, and so I just start chatting with him, and turns out that this guy's a believer and he wants to become a priest at some point in his life. And I said, hey, that's interesting because I'm a pastor. He says, a pastor? He says, well, I'm a priest. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, so what's the difference between a priest and a pastor? I said, oh, that's easy. And I gave him the same answer I give my mom.
The robe?
No. I said, the difference between a priest and a pastor is that I'm allowed to get married. That's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
So anyway, go on to chatting and that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden this guy's saying, hey, this guy, Rob, he really helped me out. And he's telling everybody else in this alliance. So now whenever I log into this game to just play the game, I'm getting private messages from people within the game saying, hey, heard you guys to talk to. I have become the unofficial chaplain of this weird app on my phone. And so I'm not even looking for the ministry opportunity, but the ministry opportunity presented itself. And guys, I got to share the gospel while playing a cross between Bejeweled and this community building type game. So God shows up and he provides opportunities in weird ways, even when we're not expecting it. And I'd say not even looking for it.
I think sometimes and I don't know, maybe you guys would probably have your own stories of this kind of a situation, but where when you are lost for words, like when you meet somebody and they're sharing their story and you have no idea what you're going to say because you didn't maybe know what, but it just comes to you. It like, somehow you just know to ask them a question and it sort of unfolds.
Yep.
And I think that for me, that is where God has showed up many, many times, is that, I mean, I try to, always ask God to like, let me know, and like I'll be part of the situation if you just like,
Yeah.
but
But you gotta run the show, right?
But I'm not too smart, so you got to like make a really big signpost. So
I've heard some of the things you say to people. I mean, that's got to be a God thing, like some because it's gold.
I feel like that's where God works the most. Is like I don't know if this is true for you guys, but for me, on the days when I was leading worship, say, and I got off the stage thinking like that was an awesome rock set, like that was amazing, everything, every note was hit, everything was great. Those were the weeks where people were kind of like, it was good job on worship, that kind of thing. And the weeks where I thought I failed, and this is true even with like preaching a sermon, on the weeks that I think that I tank and that I have nothing good to say and that no one is going to be, even hear or care what I have to say, those are the weeks that people come to me and are like, man, that just changed my life. And I think that that's how God maybe keeps me humble, is so I know that it's not me who does these things, especially when it's in influencing other people's lives, and as a Christian, we get to do that, whether we're playing an app or on vacation or, all those other kinds of things. We're constantly Christians. It doesn't change just because you go on vacation,
Yeah, that's true.
And so, I think God uses those times to remind me that he's still there and it still matters,
Well, I remember one time being on a plane and I can't remember where I was coming back from. But so I'm sitting on a plane and I did not want to talk to anybody. I was at a conference. And I just, like your brain's tired, you're done, you've just taken in a lot of information, you're tired because maybe you don't sleep well in a hotel room. And I remember sitting in the plane and a lady sits beside me and you could just tell, like she's walking towards me down the aisle when she's coming onto the plane. She makes eye contact with me and I'm like, oh, don't sit with me. Don't sit with me. Don't sit with me. Because I know she's a talker.
Like and it wasn't me.
It wasn't Janet.
I was going to say, doesn't Janet go with you on all these conferences?
No, this person is a talker. I know that if I pick up something to read, they're going to be leaning over and they're going to be, what you reading? So sure enough, this lady sits down beside me. And so then I'm quiet. I have my headset on and I have my eyes closed. And all of a sudden I feel this little nudging on my shoulder and I'm pretending to be asleep.
You're like, no,
it's like, I don't want to talk right now. I don't want to talk. And then she just nudges a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, I can't be rude. Okay. So I take my headphones off and I'm like, hey, like what's going on? And then she just starts this conversation and she says, so where are you from? And I'm like, okay. So we go into the whole thing, where you're from. And then I was like, I couldn't wait for that one. I was so excited because the next question is, well, what do you do? Now, everybody, you know this, I'm a pastor. So normally, right? When I say what I do for a living, that conversation comes to a screeching halt.
Yeah, it has happened to us several times.
Yeah, it happened to us at a resort.
At an airport.
You name it, right? So this is what I do for a living. I'm like, okay, I can put my head. Nope, she was all into it. She's like, oh, you're religious.
Wow.
Because this was an older lady, right? And so she's talking to me about her grandkids. She's talking to me about her children. And then she says, so what religion? And I'm like, well, I just said I was a pastor.
So clearly
there's an assumption on my part towards her, right? So I said, well, actually, I'm a Christian pastor. She goes, oh. And then she does this. Tell me about God.
You're like, okay,
here we go. Okay, I am not putting my headset back on. Like this
God is going to softball that one in right over.
Yeah, like God just like, it's okay, Rob. We won't make you work too hard for this one. Here you go, little one. Right.
I've had that kind of a conversation with friend of mine in Ireland where she kept on asking these questions, and I feel really guilty because now I look back on this, and during that I was miserable. Like I was a little punk because I was just like, please stop asking these questions. But then she would assume, or she would say something that I knew was wrong,
Right.
and a wrong place for her to be, and I couldn't not correct her. Like I can't let you continue thinking, like, because there are times when it's like, yeah, I'm a Buddhist pastor, now leave me alone. you know but you can't correct it, or you can't not correct it. And so that's funny. Just sitting on a plane with a lady that won't stop.
She was going for it, and so we had an awesome conversation. I actually felt invigorated by it.
Yes,
because remember, I was tired initially. Yeah, the mind-blowing part. Yeah, you're right. Like she tapped my shoulder, and that's bold. Right? Like that's where like you either didn't bring anything to read, or you didn't like what was playing on the TV in front of you, and so you're going to talk to the person beside you. But you know what? Again, it was a God moment. I truly believe it. We had a fantastic time together. I even asked her if she wanted to accept Christ. And she says, well, he sounds nice.
She wasn't quite there yet.
She's like, not quite there yet. Rob's like, well, you know what? At least Jesus sounded nice to her. That's the starting place. She's a very sweet lady.
But I mean, I think that it is when we're available to the prompting of the Holy Spirit, we are able to meet those moments. And sometimes if we're not, even when you're not in the zone, sometimes God puts those moments where it's like, tap, tap, get to work, tell me about God. But I think there's times where I think we can think of times where we've missed an opportunity, or where you let it go by. And when you are obedient to the prompting, I think it is completely shocking when you hear a little prompt, stop and talk to this person or do something, and they're like, oh, that's what I totally needed right now. And I always find that so reassuring, because sometimes I think it's easier to just avoid those little prompts and go about our business. And I think God, the Holy Spirit's working in us.
Even when we're available like that, even in the outside of that, when we are needing, or again, when we're asking for God to show up in our own life, I think that there's that, when we go humbly before him, he can work with a humble spirit. And so when we go humbly before him, making our requests known, that kind of idea where we say, look, this is the situation I'm in, and I need you to show up. And I've been in that situation a lot, in my own personal life. And I think that sometimes God shows up in the exact way that I want him to. But oftentimes he shows up in a completely different way that was way better.
But what you would say, he always showed up the way we needed him to.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It isn't how we wanted, maybe, but it is how we needed.
Yeah. And so I think that like going before him and just saying, hey, I need you to show up. I'm very big on like the idea of prayer journaling. And I remember I have a prayer journal where I just said, God, I'm mad, and I'm mad at you, and I gave my list, and all of it was childish and all of it was ridiculous. But I was like, I need you to show up. And I'm pretty good about like ending my prayers with, in your name, amen, like a good Christian boy does. This one in particular, I said, I'll talk to you later.
Like a good teenager.
Yeah, exactly. The very next day, God answered that prayer.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it's amazing when we think about like a holy, amazing God with like when you think of who we're talking to.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes, we have, like you said, these little things that are somewhat ridiculous, and yet he meets them.
Well, I think it reminds us that, like, especially in those moments where I think it's even the terminology we use is kind of funny, right? Like, and God showed up. Well, no,
he was always there.
Like our theology is that God is ever present, right? And so it's that our eyes have been opened.
Yeah.
It's
one of those things. It's like, when was the last time you praised the Lord when you were buying toothpaste, for providing the money to buy toothpaste?
Sure.
Because like everything we have comes from him. And it's not like he only shows up when we need something big.
Well, I think it's also important to recognize that like the language we use matters in this, and that even within the language, like God doing things is regular. It's not like this event,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
so sometimes I think we think of mission and that kind of stuff as like a mission trip, like it's an
Mm-hmm.
event. It's a sort of this set aside time that we put towards a mission project and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that these God moments, especially when we're interacting with other people, are very much the idea of like when it says in Matthew 28, you said like go make disciples, but the better translation is as you are going,
Mm-hmm.
make disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the as you are going piece, right? Like you're going to have these encounters that God's going to put in front of you. You're going to have encounters with Him, and He's
Mm-hmm.
going to orchestrate these encounters with you and with others. And so it's kind of neat. Yeah, I like it. I was thinking exactly the same thing, Melissa. You know, the idea that it's the weirdest term. Like God showed up. What do you mean He showed up?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's there.
And he went before and he's
Mhm.
going after.
Yeah.
And it's about our awareness.
Yeah. Well, again, like go back to your mission trip experience, right? With the I-beams being up behind the
Mhm.
church. Okay, those I-beams were there quite an extensive period of time.
But you think like in those moments, sometimes I feel like you just wonder what it's like in heaven. Do they like, does he call some angels around and say, hey, you got to watch these kids. They don't even think I sent these I-beams in 1984. They're standing there. They still can't find them.
Yeah. Well, it's the irony of having like a 9-year-old kid find them, like to show all of these, because the people we were with were these big construction guys, and like they knew what they were talking about, and we were just kind of like, sure, great. And then like we had this little kid come and be like, hey, they're out back.
You're like, sure they are.
Sure they are. Do you know what an I-beam is?
Yeah, exactly.
So I just think it's cool when we acknowledge that God is present, that He is active, and that it's not us that invite Him into things, it's Him that invites us into things, right? Because God's on the move. He is on mission. And so these moments that we experience, right? Yeah, they're the moments that bless us. They're the moments that are, you could say, directed at us. But then there's those moments that He launches you into spaces that you just didn't see coming. I just think that creates or should create within us a level of anticipation, where we get to ask the question, God, what are you up to and where can I fit in?
Yeah.
Right. And so if it creates the anticipation and the expectation of God's movement, man, that just sounds so much more exciting than God showed up. It's no, God's doing something awesome over here and He just sent you an invitation.
Well, it's the difference between God's will being done and my wants or whatever being fulfilled. Like when we are walking into those moments, expecting Him to fulfill His will, not my will, then there is that attitude of just like, cool, this isn't about me. And so you're already here. I'm just being that, again, like what Janet was saying, I'm being available for this moment to happen. Yeah. Like I want to be the one that you use to go talk to those people. I don't want to be the one that gets to heaven and be like, dang, I missed all those opportunities and you had to use somebody else.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Because He's doing His plan. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, He'll get it done with or without me.
So I just think that's one of the coolest things about it. Again, like you've heard me say this lots, and you guys in the office, it's like a recurring theme or maybe a broken record, but this notion that Christianity could be boring to somebody, it just it baffles me.
And I think that to me, it is an indicator, the idea that we are not participating in a real understanding of the power and glory, like that is available, that is present, that is living. It's more of a religious viewpoint. When someone says it's boring, it's because they're looking at it from a very textbook.
Or even
I learned all the stories, and therefore I think I know God.
Like I saw the flannel graph.
Yeah, but He says that think of just sit in this thought for a moment. Like, we're told that he can do exceedingly more than we could ever think or imagine. Now, we can be pretty creative in our imagination. He can do exceedingly more than we could ever think or imagine.
Mm.
Like, how exciting is that? Like, what that means is that God's constantly on the move. He's constantly doing something. He's constantly reaching out to people, and in ways that we couldn't possibly imagine. He used a game
Right.
to give me opportunity to share the gospel with people.
Well, and I think one of the word pictures that come to my mind is the idea of a dominoes, right? Like he's setting up the most elaborate domino set to just like fall down exactly in the pattern to speak his glory.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is we think that we're domino number one.
And if we don't, or that we think we're pushing over the next one,
or we even think, like we're the ones even starting the push.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
not it.
No, like there's been all kinds of things being orchestrated and taking place in order for that kind of thing to happen. And so I don't know, guys, I just think God's amazing. Mm-hmm. And the God moments that we talk about, these divine encounters that you can say, these divine moments that we're able to have with people, these answered prayers that the Lord offers us, whether it's for family members or whether it's for gospel presentation or whether it's for people coming into our lives at exactly the right time with exactly the right words.
Or even just like, I think we get, moments of peace, or when you're dealing with a health crisis, there is just answers to prayers that can't be explained, and you just know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight. We got some information for you, of course, regarding coming back to church services. So please go over to our website for that. And if you don't know where that is, check us out at www.pathwaycc.net. You'll find all the information there regarding our coming back to services. And other than that, we'll be on
the Church Center app.
On the Church Center app. Yep. Definitely. If you don't have the Church Center app, again, go to our website, download the Church Center app. It'll have all the information you need. And we will see you next week.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Yep.